So rolling in 3, 2. Welcome to Tiny Bar Chats. I'm Edwin Escobar, and
Michael Moon, born in everyone.
he does talk, guys. Today we have the CEO and founder of Connecticut's Hall of Change. He's many more things, but without further ado, Mr. Charles Grady.
How you doing, guys? Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for having me here.
Man, thank you for coming. I know you got a busy schedule.
Never too busy for Evan.
Hey,
Come on.
I feel the love.
There you go.
So before we talk about hang time and everything that you've been doing, let's go back to Charles Grady. Where did this path towards where you are right now begin?
So, it's funny because I've been asked that question a lot of times, and most often I get asked the question, why does this guy who's a current Fed, why does he care about the reentry community? And so I think in the simplest form, I could say that growing up, I grew up in New Haven. Then my family moved us to West Haven when they made it big, and my father got promoted to a detective on the New Haven Police Department. So they moved. It was the Great Migration, moving out of the inner city and moving into the suburbs. And so I lived in an all-white Italian suburb from like 9 years old throughout. But my mother would make sure that I stayed in touch and would go back and forth into the old neighborhood.
Right.
Because she wanted to make sure we understood we're not better than our cousins
Right.
and our friends that we left. And so I learned early how to do this whole code switching thing. And in the process of learning that, I learned Italian. I was,
Wow.
Back then I was kind of fluent, you know what I mean? Where I learned how all the different cultural things. But at the same time, I never lost sight of being a young black man, boy. And I watched a lot of my cousins and friends from the old neighborhood go down that path of drugs and on the street. Because you got to remember, this was prior to the crack epidemic. So this was had to be like 70, 73, somewhere around there, 74. So when the crack epidemic came into play in the late or early 80s, it was crazy by then. So I watched people that I loved become addicted to substances, go to jail. And so I recognized, but by the grace of God, that could have been me, right?
Yeah.
And, I got away with a lot of stuff as a kid because you do stupid things as a kid.
Right.
And I just wasn't in an environment where the police were hawking us, right? In the suburbs, the police aren't watching your every move.
Yeah, there's no overpresence.
Yeah, right. And so, in the inner city, they're coming by the block every 2 minutes to see what you're doing. So it all started, I became a cop, and while I was a police officer in a very racist environment. Back in 1982, when I became a cop, at the end of 81, early 82, I became a police officer in a town called Hamden. And Hamden was sort of like the suburb of New Haven, where you sort of made it. If you move. So if you're from New Haven, you made it from. You made it if you were in Hamden, if you were in West Haven, if you were in Westville in New Haven, you sort of made it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so Hamden had this attitude that they didn't want blacks and Hispanics moving up from New Haven, crossing the line into their town.
Correct. Yeah.
So there were times when my supervisor then, who's, it's crazy, he was as racist could be, but loved me.
Yeah. I ran into, I worked for New York City Transit for 30 years.
Yeah.
And you run into a lot of that.
Yeah. And they don't even recognize how racist they are. You know what I mean? Because when you tell someone that, that was racist or you're being racist, in their mind, racist is if I put on a KKK hat, if I go after people and call them all kinds. That's the level of racism that they identify. They don't recognize all the nuances.
Right. I think that's why it's such a challenging subject because everybody points fingers, but no one wants to look in the mirror and be like, maybe that's a little racist.
Yeah, and the best part about that is when you educate people, when they say stupid things like, I'm not racist. Some of my best friends are black or Puerto Rican, whatever. And I just don't think the races should mixed.
Yeah.
Really?
Way to close that out.
Yeah. That's you just kind of undid everything you said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but they don't get it. And
Yeah.
so, but a lot of it's willful ignorance too.
Yeah.
But anyway, being a police officer there, I witnessed a lot. And I realized that I had to, in a covert way, sort of protect people that look like me. I mean, there were times when there would be a call and it wasn't my area, but I knew who the cops were that were going,
Yeah.
and I would show up because I knew if I wasn't standing there, they,
It would be something different.
they would make it to the station. They'd be at ER, you know, and not a lot of them. I will not say there was a lot of them that were that bad, but there was some, and they were older and they were from a different generation.
Yeah.
And like I said, most of them love me, but really despise me at the same time. Now follow me here. I was young, I was single, I was making the same money they were making. I had bought myself a brand new fly-ass BMW red convertible, the ultimate drive machine. The commercials were on TV at the time.
Yeah.
And here they are with a station wagon and 4 kids, and they were like, how's he doing that? He must be selling drugs. So, God, this is what they say. And I would break it down. I'd be like, wait a minute, hold on. I'll make the same money you make.
Yeah.
But I don't have no kids in college. I don't have no kids that I got to put in sports and hockey. I don't own a house. I live in an apartment.
Yeah.
I play drums professionally on the side.
Yeah.
So how is it that I'm selling drugs?
Right.
You know what I mean? But
Right.
they were okay with me as long as they felt like they had more than me.
And that's something that I've noticed. It's like, it's tolerance with conditions.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so as long as they felt like they were superior to me in some way, they were okay. But when they recognized I was on their level in many ways, that irked them.
Yeah.
It just irked them. It bothered them. And that's when I started to feel sorry for them. Now, don't ask me where the compassion came from or the empathy came from, because they didn't have it for me, a lot of them, right? But I would feel sorry for them. Like I would look at them when they would say and do stupid things and be like, you don't even know how ridiculous you are,
Yeah.
And it was envy, and it was, just, I haven't gone that far. I never had that when I was your age. These guys were older and they didn't have what I was able to do at my age. So they were constantly making this comparison.
Right.
But what I recognized was they took advantage of that superiority with the black folks and the Hispanic folks coming into Hamden. And they tried to make me one of those people,
Okay.
right? And they couldn't. They tried to put me in that box. And there was 2 other black officers there before me. And they were, they were great guys, but they kept their mouth shut. They weren't flashy. And I was young, man. I had myself a motorcycle, a convertible, and girls, and more girls, and a few more.
As you should.
You know
as
what I
a
mean?
young man.
Right. And, but so, these other 2 guys were married, and they were just homebodies. They'd go to work in Hamden, they'd go home. They wouldn't, but I was out at the club. I was doing everything. And these guys hated it. They hated it. They were like, look at him. Got a blonde girl on the back of his motorcycle. Did you see him? Did you see him? Yeah.
Ooh, I knew they was mad.
Yeah. But you know what? And again, I made a lot of lifelong friends at that police department as well, because again, I accepted them for who they were.
Yeah.
Right.
But I knew there was limitations. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget this one dispatcher, and she was Italian girl. She was attractive, but not as attractive as she thought she was. Yeah. And she said, you're such a great guy. And she goes, oh, because I was dating an Italian woman, and we got engaged and got married. And she says, oh, it's great. She goes, but just don't have kids, because they're not going to know where they fit in.
What?
She said, they're poor kids don't know where they fit in. And I was like, this girl, like, she loved me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for her to say something so stupid out of her mouth,
Yeah.
and she loved my girl. And I'm like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
But listen, there's a smidgen of truth in that. And people who are biracial, people are like, they've come up and they've had some some bad experiences where people like, are you black? Are you white?
Right.
Like, are you Boricua? What are you? You know what I mean?
I get that all the time.
Yeah. You know, people get confused because they need to put you in a box, bro.
Yeah.
They need to put you in a box so that they understand.
It's for them.
It's for them.
It's for them.
It's got nothing to do with you. It's simply, I need to process, okay, he looks, all right, yeah, now I got it. So now I can dismiss him or raise him up in my mind. You know what I mean? It's just that simple.
Yeah.
So I went through a lot of that, but I also, again, realized early on that there were people that looked like me, that friends, family members that were struggling, not necessarily because of where they lived, because they didn't recognize their value.
Yeah.
Right? And so I had a cousin who was like superstar in basketball, right? He was, I mean, he literally had professional teams looking at him in high school, right? But he was out on the block and he ended up going to jail instead of, you know, going off to college.
Yeah.
But, you know, years later, the truth of why he was doing all that came out because he was getting high to mass pain, right? To stuff that happened to him when he was a kid.
Right.
And so I'll leave it there. But the truth of the matter is, I started to recognize that people do things based on their environment and based on their history, based on what has happened to them.
Yes.
And so, fast forward, probably like maybe 8 years into being a police officer, I started a youth group in the town of Hamden called the Highwood Youth Association, and it was right on the Newhallville Hamden town line.
Shout out to Newhallville.
The Ville, baby. And so literally, it was for women, single moms that were raising sons in particular, because I recognized that struggle.
Right.
And so I had bought a house early and I was renting out floors, and I intentionally rented to single moms with sons because those boys needed some sort of father figure or male figure around, you know? And so I was very intentional about it. And both of those women today thank me for, you know, helping with their
That's incredible.
sons. Yeah,
that's really
and the program I created, it was an after school program when there wasn't one, and all the kids, we created a basketball league. It was unbelievable. And then politics got involved, and I didn't hire one of the mayor's best friends to run the program with me, so I got transferred out.
Wow.
Yeah. And I ended up getting transferred to statewide narcotics, which ultimately turned out to be the best thing. Listen, when life hands you lemons,
You gotta make some lemonade.
I made some sugary lemonade out of it, right? That was like that colored folk sweet. You know,
So this was not for the state police.
This was.
Okay.
So what ended up happening is it was meant to be a punishment to get me away from
and it turned
From being a community leader.
right to get me. It was meant to be a punishment. Oh, you ain't gonna do what we ask you to do?
Yeah.
We're gonna send you out there.
Yeah.
And bro, when I tell you, listen, I didn't miss a beat. I got into it. Everybody's like, "What are you doing here? You're like Mr. Community." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. Let's go."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And turned that into the best job. Ended up getting promoted and moved to a federal task force, DEA, FBI, joint task force. Did that for like 8 years, man. Just doing drug cases, large scale drug cases. I ended up doing the first NPTL, National Priority Target List, cocaine distribution and heroin distribution case, where we actually indicted and arrested here in Connecticut 2 members of the Arellano Felix cartel from Sinaloa, Mexico.
Okay.
Right?
That's no small feat.
That's and I, you know, I mean, because we actually stumbled onto it from doing a little local case in Meriden, and ultimately I traced it back, and I had great informants telling me. And by the time we finished, there was a murder, and a guy's head was cut off, and they were riding around with his head, showing it to people, saying, "If you owe this guy money, you don't owe him no more. You owe us." And this is
That was happening in Connecticut.
in Meriden.
In Meriden, really?
In Meriden, Connecticut.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
The
unbelievable.
cartels was rolling like that, huh?
They had a stash house in Wallingford where kilos were stacked from floor to ceiling.
Wow.
Right? And it was crazy. So it was all done by wiretap. And we figured out who it was. When I tell you it was a case for the movies, it was a case for the movies.
It sounds like it.
Well, you know I'm gonna write it, right?
Yes.
You know it's coming.
And we're gonna get into that because I didn't know because you know, I guess we didn't box you in, but you know you're Mr. Hall of Change, and you're an actor as well.
Oh yeah,
seasoned actor.
Oh yeah,
and because of your background and you know. Law enforcement, you know, you provide more than just acting. You know, sometimes consulting and just the know-how the right way. So we're gonna go back to some of your law enforcement and ultimately, you know, Hall of Change. But talk to me a little bit about your acting and is it a passion that you pursued?
So it's funny because all this time when I was the cop, all that early years. It was during the time when Eddie Murphy had just been on Saturday Night Live, and everybody goes, "Oh, you look like that guy on Saturday Night Live." I got tired of hearing
what?
Yeah, right. And so I never took any acting classes in school or anything like that. But you know, as a young black man, I always thought, when you watch a movie, I could do that.
I could do that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about it is my mother. If I said, "Look, Mom, I could eat this right here," she said, "Go ahead, baby, you can eat it."
Yeah.
You eat it and you be the best at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's support right there.
You know what I mean?
That's big time.
You know,
support.
like my mother nor my father never said, "Oh, you can't do that." Right. And like I hear some people, their hang up is my parents wouldn't let me or told me that
I'm taking notes on that.
You know what I mean? Couldn't do it. Yeah, man. Don't ever stop your kids from dreaming and pushing forward, right? So I was a cop and I was a professional musician at the same time. So I used to play with like top jazz artists throughout New England. So Marion Meadows, Ron Lawrence, God rest his soul.
Rest in peace, Ron Lawrence. Man, I miss those Mondays.
Yeah, that was my guitarist.
Oh,
and I was a drummer, and Jay Rowe and Artie Dixon, Joey Malati, all these names from the past. We used to play at the Foundry Cafe. And so I was doing that on the side. And more people were like, "Yo, you look like," and then Arsenio Hall came on. They're like, "You look like." So I was like, "Come on now, I got to capitalize."
Resemble him a little bit.
Come on,
I mean, you had to.
Yeah. I don't have the long finger though.
Oh yeah,
you got the long.
So I said, you know what, I'm gonna capitalize on that. And so, with no acting experience, this is how confident I was, aka cocky, right?
Yeah.
And I got on a train, went down to New York. Got out at Times Square, Grand Central, and they had a magazine rack where they had a backstage magazine where all the auditions for films, and commercials and stuff were listed. Got off the train, got the magazine, got back on the train, came back home, had my friend take a couple of headshots of me.
Yeah.
Poor quality, but they were, right? I was no pro, and I just wrote a little resume on the back and what I do and so forth. And I mailed it in for a couple different auditions. Like a week later, I got a call to do a music video for Freddie Jackson.
Okay.
And went to New York and did that video. The first video was called "Do Me Again," and I was featured in the video, sitting at a table, chilling with, a little glass of Cavassier with this beautiful lady, and Freddie Jackson singing to both of us. And it's like, So I got the bug, and I was like, okay. Because I thought it was easy at that point.
Locked it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was
that's
like,
pretty easy.
Yeah, it was like boom.
Yeah.
And then I got an extra part in Malcolm X with Denzel Washington. I met Denzel. Yeah. So I was also a cop at the time. So I got a little privilege when I talked to security and the cops. Yeah. So they would let me get behind the scenes, right? And so there was this one scene just before Denzel gets killed or Malcolm X gets killed at the ballroom. He's on the side stairwell waiting to go on the stage. And I happened to be there too. And I just start talking with him. And I said, I'm a real cop in real life. And he goes, oh man. He goes, we got to talk afterwards. I was like,
yeah. Why not?
So, shot the scene or whatever. Angela Bassett, incredible scene. And I thought maybe he just kind of bluff over it. But he pulled me aside. He said, man, he says, I do a lot of stuff in film where I'm, playing a cop and so forth. He goes, what tips do you have for me? I was like, you want tips from me?
Hey.
Let's go. So it was just one of those great experiences.
Tips for training.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. It was long before training.
I was about to say, we got to thank Charles Grady for an amazing performance.
I wish I could take credit for that. But anyway, I mean, I started doing soap operas. Then I had to start taking classes in New York for film and television.
Right.
And I was doing All My Children, Guiding Light, you know, and
Okay.
then a little small, what they call under 5 roles,
Right.
you know, where you go in, you only have under 5 lines, but you're prominently featured.
Yeah.
And so that would just kind of roll me over to the next role and so forth. Now my resume was getting pretty full. And I was also doing music videos at the time. I did Nas and Cool G rap video, Fast Life.
Wow.
And I
Life,
was
really?
featured. Yeah, Fast
Oh, wow.
Life. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, watch that. I had a big old thick Tom Selleck mustache. I was the black Tom Selleck. That was the style back then, boy.
Yeah.
With the, you know,
The flat top and all.
Yeah, come on, man.
How old are you?
I'm 63.
We're the same age.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you
yeah.
remember?
I remember. Yes,
All
I
right.
do.
And so did another one with Surface. You know, so Bernard Jackson, good friend of mine still to this day. He's from Stanford, and I used to play behind him in a band also. And he put me in this video. What video? Shower Me With Your Love, and one of his biggest hits. So I was rolling. I was in films and I was in TV. I was doing a lot of, you know, independent films or whatever. And then I finally got like a real big role offered to me, and it was crazy because HBO had just done a film about Mike Tyson, starring Mike Jai White, who's from Connecticut.
Shout out
also.
to yeah.
Mike's a good dude. Matter of fact, my roommate at the time were college roommates. So Mike would come to my house and stay at my house when when he was going between auditions and stuff.
Right.
So we struck up a good friendship, and they shot Mike Tyson's story. So then I look at auditions and backstage, and they're HBO shooting the Tiger Woods story. So I go for the audition. Actually, I sent my picture in first, and they called me right back. And they were like, yo, you look a lot like Tiger when I was younger and shaved that mustache. You look a lot like Tiger. Can you golf? And I was like, yeah, I could golf.
Hey.
So went down to Manhattan. They're like, good, make sure you're here. Whatever. I get there, bro, and I tell you, there was a line of dudes that looked just like me all the way around the corner. I'm like, damn. I'm like, this is what it's like?
Yeah.
Woman comes out with the little clipboard. Charles Grady? It's Charles Grady. I'm way in the back. I go, yeah, that's me. She goes, come on, they want to see you. I went past all these
dudes, and they were all looking at
all,
you like,
and they all had the little Nike hat on, the golf club.
Yeah.
You know, you know what I mean? They was like upset, bro. They was like, who's this dude, right? I go in, and it was the wildest audition ever, because when I get in there, the production team is all sitting at the table like you see in the movies, but they had 3 cameras, and one of them was rotating around you. I ain't never auditioned with that. Like usually you audition straight at the camera. Hi, my name is, you know.
Yeah. They were doing test shots from the beginning.
And man, this was
HBO, right?
Yeah. It was amazing. And so I rocked it. I killed it, right? And they said, oh, that was great. That was great. We'll get right back to you. They sent everybody home. So there was me, 2 other dudes there. Now, they were on a time constraint. They sent everybody else home. They called me like 3 days later. Do you have an attorney? I said, no, but I could get one. They said, well, we want to meet with you and your attorney. Bring your attorney. We want to offer you a role, but you're going to have. So I was like, okay. I get my buddy who's an attorney here in Connecticut, head down. We're sitting there, and it's surreal to me because they're actually saying, well, listen, you're going to have to swing like Tiger. You're going to have to walk like Tiger and all that. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And they said, well, we're going to shoot 6 months down in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm a cop. I can't take 6 months off of work. But the minute I said that, bro, they were heated.
They were angry, huh?
They were angry. I thought I was going to be blackballed from the industry.
Wow.
They gave me hell. They were like, you wasted our time. We could have. I was like, I didn't know the process.
Yeah.
And boy, they were all over it. So I kind of, put my tail between my legs. And I was like, okay, I better give this a rest for a little while because this is a lot more intense than I thought it was. And I can't just be trying to go for real major roles. Like I was good with popping in and out, doing a little under 5 here and there. But I learned a lesson. You don't go for major roles until you got the freedom to do it.
Freedom to do it.
Commit.
Right.
Commit.
Yeah,
And so I kind of slowed down, went back to doing the other stuff. And then a good friend of mine, Cindy Bankhead, she's the mother of Chase Dillon, the Disney star from Connecticut, Chase Dillon. She called me up one night, 11 o'clock. She's like, you still acting? I go, yeah, I'm acting. She goes, there's a off-Broadway show going on, and they want a strong black male lead. And what they're getting is a bunch of, weak black. They're getting a bunch of, I'll put it that way. It's like, you know what I mean? Because theater guys are a little different, right? They're a little softer sometimes, and it's, so anyway, and that's not a disrespect to theaters guys, because not everybody, but.
The culture's changed.
Yeah,
but,
and so, I mean, you're playing a tough guy. You can't be singing show tunes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway, so I said, oh, yeah. I said, I'd be interested. And it's 11 o'clock at night. I'll never forget. I'm watching the news. She goes, well, they're in New York. They can't find anybody. They need to start rehearsals. They're coming to you. What? They came to the hotel. It's the New Haven Hotel now on Chapel Street. Where the study is.
Not the Omni.
Nope, not where the study is on Chapel Street. There was a hotel there, and years ago, and so I get there, and I go up to the room, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is 12 o'clock at midnight. Yeah, this is a porn film.
Make sure I'm
no Diddy.
I'm like, I'm gonna walk in the door, and Diddy's gonna be there. But no. I walk in, and he had his assistant there, real chill guy, and gave me the lines, and I rehearsed the lines, read it with him and her, and they were like, they didn't say nothing at first, and they were like, okay, and then they gave me a different character. They said, read this one. Da-da-da. I do my thing, and they go, how's $800 a week? I was like, for what? They say, well, you have to be in Manhattan. We open at the Union Square Theater.
Yeah.
And you have to be in Manhattan for 3 rehearsals a week. We pay for your transportation, and you make an $800 a week salary.
And what year is this?
This was 80.
Okay.
I think it was 88, 89, somewhere around there.
That's good money for them.
That was real good money for them, right? And I didn't make that kind of money in one shot for nothing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I take the job. My very first performance was at the Apollo Theater.
Wow.
So I never walked on a stage before, not a high school play, nothing, right? My very first time taking the stage was at the Apollo Theater, and I'm rubbing on the little wood, and I got up there, and we killed it. It was a show called Whatever Happened to Black Love, by playwright Thomas Melanson out of Texas. Mm-hmm. Awesome show. And wow. I was an angry, abusive husband, and it was a phenomenal show. And then we went to the Union Square Theater, which was our home theater, mm-hmm. and we'd finish the show, and I'd come out and sign autographs and everything. I was like, okay, I could get used to this. Yeah, this was all right. Cool. Good money, so forth. And then the cast broke up. Who was infighting? Who was sleeping with who? I was like,
the usual.
Yeah, like a band. You know what I mean? Every band I was in broke up.
Yeah.
And so, so that was my introduction to it. And since then, I've done a bunch of films, a lot of independent films. In between working. So I've never stopped being law enforcement. So after I retired out of the police department in 2002, I continued to do films. Like the whole time I was there, I'd do films. I would do documentaries. I'd be like the narrator. I did one for Boston U.S. Attorney's Office. And I look back at it now and I was like, man, that was a lot of work for me. But the crazy part is I was in a film called Mystic River with Sean Penn.
Yeah, I remember that.
That movie was awesome. Yeah. And so I had met Lawrence Fishburne earlier in New Haven. Mm-hmm. Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne did a play at Longworth, and I met them there. And just hit it off with them, and we went to a bar, restaurant afterwards, whatever. And that was it, talked to them. So I go up to this audition for Mystic River in Boston, mm-hmm. and so I actually was working in Newhallville doing surveillance.
Okay.
And they called and said, hey, can you be up here in a couple hours? We have an audition. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. So I called on the radio. Look, I'm going to be out of commission for a little bit. And I'm glad I did, because I ended up getting onto the set, and I meet Lawrence Fishburne again, and he's like, hey, I remember you from New Haven, blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. So he invites me back to his trailer. We're sitting in the trailer talking, and at the time he was actually thinking about moving to Africa because he was tired of the U.S. And we're sitting in the trailer, and all of a sudden, come on in, and in comes Kevin Bacon. And I'm like, now, I'm not starstruck at all, but I'm like, okay, I got Kevin Bacon and Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, that's
right. I'm in here. Hey, how you doing? Good, good, good. Clint Eastwood comes to the door, opens the door. Hey guys, we're about to get started. I was like, oh shit.
He was directing?
He was directing.
Oh, wow.
I said, I got Dirty Harry up in this bitch.
They just kept escalating.
Yeah, man. And
just kept getting better
man.
and better.
And like all the other extras were looking at me like, how are you hanging out with these dudes? So I sat and had lunch. So Clint Eastwood's mom was on the set.
Yeah.
And she was like 11 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there eating lunch with them and talking. But I'm going to tell you, it was the greatest experience because I got to see why Clint Eastwood was so great. Because most directors on film sets, like they got the PAs, quiet on the set, quiet on the set, quiet on the set. All right, and action, right? Clint Eastwood did none of that. This dude, if you weren't paying attention, you get thrown off the set.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
So everybody has to be watching what Clint's doing.
Militant.
Right? And so you can whisper or talk a little bit, but if you miss the cue, because here's what he would do. He'd say to the actors, he'd go, okay, Sean, this is where you're going to get real angry about your daughter missing and this is happening. Okay, so I want you to really bring it. And then he'd walk away. He said, now act. Just like that.
Now act.
Now act. And he'd walk
I
away.
may borrow that.
Yeah.
Now act.
Yeah, just like that. Now act. And he'd go like this. And if you weren't paying attention and you were off your mark, you were done.
Yeah.
It was
over.
crazy. It was crazy. So I work with a lot of those directors. Like Spike Lee was pretty good too. But that was like a memorable moment. So I love the entertainment industry. Now I'm trying to get behind the camera myself and direct a couple things. I got a short documentary coming up called When We Become They, Us Versus Them.
Yeah.
And it's all about people who turn their lives around and go into law enforcement after prison, and people who were in law enforcement that go to prison.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
That's going to be something to watch.
Yeah. It's coming. It's coming. So
My mom, when I was younger, she used to work with Dr. Kenneth B. Clark that did the doll study in the 60s. But they started a program at Greenhaven Correctional Facility called Think Tank Concept, where most of the prisoners that were in the concept, they were all lifers. I think maybe all of them, except maybe one or two, all got exonerated because of their participation in that program.
Awesome.
She did the same thing that your family did. We lived in Harlem. We didn't leave the hood. We owned a brownstone, and I went to private school. Private school was probably maybe 15% black, something like that. I played ball there and everything. And she never let me forget my roots.
that's right.
Or she never moved out of the hood. So all of my friends, like your friends, I watched people get hooked on drugs, go to prison, get killed, the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah, it was, growing up was pretty, I liked growing up. We used to spend summers in Mississippi.
Yeah.
My uncle started a school in Piney Woods was the name of the school in Mississippi for underprivileged black kids. And he started it in the 1800s. And
Well, that's a way back.
yeah. They came to hang him, but he talked them out of it. Yeah.
Hey, if you can talk yourself out of that.
Hanging, yeah.
He talked about it. Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on now.
Yeah.
I can see it.
But yeah, we pretty much had, and we're the same age, so we pretty much had the same kind of upbringing in the same era.
Yeah. And you know what's great? Like you said, I enjoyed my upbringing, right?
Yeah.
I remember my father was a detective during the Black Panther movement.
Right.
And New Haven was like a hub.
Right.
Because of the train station.
Right.
Malcolm X would come through, all these Black Panthers, Stokely Carmichael, all of them.
My mom knew all of them.
Yeah, they all spent time in New Haven.
Yeah.
And the police department back then would do wiretaps like in a primitive way. They climb the pole and literally take the wires for the phone lines because they were hard lines. There was no
Yeah.
cell phone.
Yeah.
And they'd clip onto it and then they'd listen. Like it'd be like a dude on
Literally.
the pole, literally.
I mean, that's where the term comes from, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. So I remember growing up through all of that, you know, and I left my shit in the car. That's
So-
all right.
So we're gonna come back after this break to
Okay.
thank our sponsors. But we know we're gonna talk a little bit more about hang time.
Yeah.
But overall, from the beginning, you know, what you said about your parents
Yeah.
and how they never put any limits on what you could do. So I can see how that resonates throughout your life
Yeah.
on everything. Taking an opportunity,
That's right.
not overthinking and just
right.
like going for it.
Doing it.
And sometimes you found some ceilings
Yep.
and then, okay,
Yep.
let me calm down. But
Yep.
it never stopped you. So in every room you walk in, you can
That's right.
move through your personality and confidence. So shout out to your parents, man.
Thank
And we're
you.
going to talk a little bit more about your father. I know that's your hero.
Yeah.
But we'll be right back. Today's episode is sponsored by Soul Food Sundays, the home for the creatives. This episode is also sponsored by Mobile Registration Services of Connecticut. That's 40 Fairfield Avenue, Bridgeport, Connecticut. This episode is also made possible by Exhibit B Agency, designing bold futures for bold brands. All right, welcome back. So, to Charles Grady, let's come back to the future a little bit. So, tell me what you got going on right now. What is your main or one of the main focuses you have?
So right now, my nonprofits are blowing up, right? Hang Time is the parent. And under that umbrella, we have a production company where we do stage productions and plays. I direct, I write. I also work with my man, Steve Driffin.
Absolutely genius.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff together. I just spoke to him the other day and talked about our next adventure. The first time we worked together, you know, Steve is funny because Steve's like, what's this cop know about? Like, he didn't know my background. So I said, Steve, we should do something together. He's like, all right, well, I don't know what this cop knows about, you know, theater or film or whatever. And then we did a play called Her Time based on a film that I helped produce 10 years earlier. And it was sort of like the continuation of this girl coming home from prison after being sentenced to 40 years in prison, federal prison.
Was it led by one of the grade 8?
Actually, it was Dr. Maisa Akbar was a part of the panel, and I forget her name, but she wasn't one of the grade 8. We have a separate show that we did with the grade 8.
Okay.
And I'll tell you about that one. But we did a thing called Her Time, and I'll tell you, it blew up. We put this thing together. We had a 14-person cast. We had a whole crew, and we premiered it at the Klein Theater in Bridgeport. We had 900 people. 900 people in 2 days, which is unheard of.
That's quite incredible.
For just a non, established play. It was the first time out. And we ended up getting a lot of attention. This was 2019, getting a lot of attention for the play. Almost immediately, someone reached out and said, hey, I heard about the show. Have you thought about maybe bringing it off Broadway? And we were all excited. And then COVID hit. And everything shut down.
COVID,
Everything shut down in New York. So that was it. And we were hoping, like, let's get it back together. But too much time went by and people's lives changed in the process. But Steve went on to do his own thing. I went on to do my own thing. But at some point, we're going to come back together and do a bigger production. But
we saw his play when we did the film fest.
Yeah.
The play that we watched in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah, that was him.
That was okay.
what Death by a Thousand Cuts.
Yes.
Yeah. Great show. And so I'm running with the nonprofits. I have Her Time, which is exclusively for all women that have either been incarcerated or have stayed home while their husbands, wives, daughters have been incarcerated, or just from the community that need a little support.
Yes.
And so these women come together on a regular basis and they support each other. We bring in resources. So if you stop and think about it, a lot of these women have to put their own dreams aside so that they can take care of the family, waiting for someone else to come home. They haven't pursued their degree. They haven't pursued, their career, whatever the case may be. So we try to give them a sense of freedom, and we try to give them a sense of unity and support. So they come together in Stamford, Waterbury, Bridgeport, and New Haven. That's where our Her Time program is right now, and it's booming. It's actually phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I've never stepped foot in it. A man has never stepped foot in Her Time.
Okay.
It's only for the women, right?
That's great.
Yeah. And then we have a thing called Hang Time Mobile, where we learn about a time period in history, an event in history, and we travel to that location where the event occurred, as long as it's within a 5-hour bus drive. And so we end up every year going to Washington, D.C. to do a historical tour of the Capitol and how it was built. Slaves built it, bringing them. And if you stop and think about it, these big sandstone pillars, I mean, these things weigh more than half of our buildings do.
Yeah.
And slaves brought these things over on ships and erected them, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like mind-boggling that with primitive tools, or what we deem to be primitive,
Right.
they were able to construct the Capitol.
Yeah.
Right? That building is extraordinary, right from the gift on the top. So we do these tours. We learn about it on a Tuesday, and that same Saturday, we end up getting on a bus and going. So we've taken 40, 80, almost like 100 and something people down to the Capitol. This last trip we did in 2023, we got a private tour behind the scenes on the House floor.
Okay.
And so,
Wow.
Yeah. And so we literally were, all of my participants were sitting in the House floor chairs where all the laws are made. And we got some history lesson. And a lot of people don't realize that in the 50s, Puerto Rican nationals stormed the House floor, demanding the release of some prisoners, right? And they shot into the ceiling of the House floor. They left the bullets there.
Wow.
For historic value. A lot of people don't even know that. So we get the whole back end tour. And ever since January 6th, they've now reinforced the seats. There's metal plates behind the seats, so they get to duck behind it so they shouldn't breach again. So it's just fascinating. And then just for me to see, fellas and ladies from the hood sitting in these chairs, chilling, like,
right.
It was just amazing. And it was really transformative for a lot of adults, especially. But we also had young kids who literally mouth gaping, like looking up at the ceilings and the architecture and so forth.
Yeah.
So we do that. And then we have the Connecticut Hall of Change, and we have Choices. Choices is a new mentoring program we started 3 years ago. And it started because one of the guys at Hang Time, who's been with me for 10 years, he gets a call from his buddy who's a football coach at Harding. And he also went to Harding. So both of these guys went to Harding, and but my guy went to prison instead of going to college. So the coach calls him up, says, man, listen, he says, some of my players are cutting up, they're getting in trouble. Can you and some of the guys from Hang Time come over, talk to them about the bad choices they're making, whatever. So he calls me up. He's like, I want you to come and tell your story about how you grew up and how similar we are.
Yeah.
But yet I took the wrong turn, you took the right turn. So we did. We sat in front of the whole football team and told our stories. And I really expected these young guys to be like, disinterested, like too cool to listen, because that's what a lot of kids fall into. Like, I'm too cool for this, and I'm gonna be up. Bro, when I tell you, these kids were like riveted to our stories. And so I was like, wow, these kids make why? Because they wanted to be more, right? And they knew they were making bad choices with the ankle bracelet on now in high school.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you got to taste the fat meat being greasy, right? So here they are, and they're listening. They invited us to their prom. They invited us to the next football game. We connected. So now I'm like, shit, I got something here.
Yeah.
We can make something of this. And what I recognized was that the reason it was impactful is because it was people from their community, looked like them, came from the same streets, talking the same language. So I recognized I could bring in Larry Bird, Allen Houston. I could bring in anybody to talk to them. And that's great. Celebrity, they made it to the pros, good for you. But when you got somebody who came from your neighborhood, the same circumstances you come from, and they're now doing great things, it made a difference for the
Huge
kids.
difference.
Huge difference.
It's a huge difference.
So what we did, we created a program called Choices, and I now have 9 mentors. We go into the schools. It was initially set to be just a 3-session program where we go in and we talk to the kids about, different life circumstances and how to make better choices about it. But it became so effective that the school staff at Capital Prep in Bridgeport and Crosby High School in Waterbury asked us to be permanent. And so now we have our own, we're there twice a month. And we meet with the football teams, the volleyball teams, the cheerleaders, you name it, separately. And in Waterbury, Crosby High School, the principal there credits our program Choices and a couple other changes that they made for a 78% reduction in out-of-school suspensions. 78% reduction in out-of-school suspensions, meaning the kids, when they know we're there, they come.
They come to school.
And so there was one instance where we literally 2 or 3 days before, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a kid who drowned in a lake running from the police. The car went in the lake and he couldn't swim and he drowned in Waterbury. Well, that was a Crosby High School student who was a popular kid. Everybody loved him, but out there joyriding, cutting up. And so we went to do our program 2 days later. When we showed up at 8 in the morning, there was a line outside the library where we do our program, crying, girls crying, kids, I said, what's up? They said, we couldn't wait for you all to get here. We can talk to you. We can't talk to our teachers.
Yeah.
So we can talk real with you. So we really needed to be here today. And we went inside, we said some prayers together, hugged it out together, and we broke it down. By the time we left, everybody was lighter, but that's the impact that we had at that school. And the principal loves it. He's a great guy. Same at Capital Prep. But that program called Choices will be spreading. It's going to be spreading. We're going to ultimately hit at least 1 or 2 high schools in New Haven, and then 1 or 2 in Stanford as well.
So these are now more preventative, right?
It's all-
so
yeah, it's
you
all
started
preventive.
with the consequences,
That's
right?
right,
Of
reaction.
incarceration. And now you're in the root of the problem.
That's
so
right.
you're covering all
Covering
bases.
the whole thing, yeah.
And shout out to you,
Yeah,
man.
we got the moms, we got the dads, and so the ultimate goal is, if you stop and think about it, we have an inroad to the whole family. So we're dealing with the kids, and this has happened multiple times. One of our mentors is phenomenal at getting girls to open up about what they're going through at home. I mean, they're all phenomenal, but she just has a real good knack. And what she does is when she realizes what's happening at home, she calls up the mom and she goes, "Hey, you need to come to her time. Let's vibe, come together. Where's your husband? Where's your boyfriend? Where's her dad? Oh, he's in jail. What's his name? We're going to reach out to him."
Yeah.
So now when he comes home, where's he come? He comes to hang time.
Yeah.
So we got hang time, her time, and Choices. We connect the whole family.
The whole
Absolutely,
thing.
Right.
Because that's what it's about. And again, going back to,
right.
I think this has been ingrained into who
right.
you are, family.
Oh man,
It's
yeah.
so necessary.
And if you were to walk into a hang time session anywhere and call it a program, man, they'll chew your head off.
Yeah,
They'll chew your head off.
We're a family.
We're a family. Yeah, we are a
That's
family.
right.
You've been.
Yes.
Yeah, we're a family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I love it. I absolutely love it. And again, the question has always been, why do you care? Because you are me and I am you.
Yes.
I just took a left and you took a right, or vice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's no superiority thing here because I have a title.
Yeah.
And because it really bugs me that in law enforcement the culture is superior, and we're all guilty of making law enforcement feel superior from the time we're little kids.
Yeah.
Right.
You're told, "Oh, police officers protect you; they're heroes." Right?
Yeah.
Listen, you and I can go right next door to a fire and pull 3 or 4 people out. They'll call us, "Oh, what a hero!" Right? They give us a little certificate. Well, we can't go in Dunkin' Donuts next week and people give us free coffee and a meal because you know what I mean?
No.
Because,
I worked at
It never
Dunkin' Donuts. I was
Right,
giving out
right.
free coffees.
well, when you put that patch on here and that little
Yeah.
piece of metal here and the matching, matching pants, people
Yeah.
are like, "Oh, you're a hero." I work with guys that they never did nothing to
Heroic.
deserve, to deserve this whole ideology thing. So
Yeah.
that's my own pet peeve.
You
But
could
there are-
imagine the kind of run-ins I had with the police
yeah,
in
man.
Harlem.
Me too. I mean, listen, I got arrested when I was a cop.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And it was
crazy.
all just hate.
Yeah.
It was just hate.
Yeah.
And, I came through it.
Yeah.
But again, I learned how to navigate.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to navigate life, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to navigate the negative,
Yeah.
you either commit suicide or you go to prison.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
to me, that's what
That's
happens.
what it is. Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you can't cope and learn the skills, you go to prison
Yeah.
or you commit suicide.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen too often.
Yeah.
And but yeah, everything's about family for me. And I used to not believe in this whole I'm walking in my purpose. I used to not, like, I would hear people say that and I'd be like, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But bro, when I tell you now,
Yeah.
I'm
you see it all
100%.
right
I'm
now.
100% walking in my purpose,
Yes,
man.
yes, sir.
Because I see immediate change, I see
Yeah.
short-term change, and I see long-term turnaround where we're getting generations of people coming into our program. We're 10 years old this year.
Yeah.
This program's 10 years old this year. And
Wow.
we're gonna blow it out. And you all need to come to our December 14th.
December
holiday-
14th?
holiday anniversary party, December 14th. It's going to be at UB. So I'm gonna make
Oh,
sure.
perfect.
I'm gonna make sure I send you all the invite.
Okay.
You gotta
Oh,
come
yeah.
through.
we'll be there.
Absolutely.
Come through and see the
Absolutely.
fam because we in there. We in
Let's
there.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's you probably have so many, and this could be during your career, as in law enforcement or just during hang time, either or with family.
Yep.
What's a moment or case or just particular moment or case that re-solidified? I'm living in my purpose.
So
Even before you believed in living
Yeah.
in your purpose or whatnot, but
Yeah.
what made you feel like, yeah?
So I'll start with when I was a kid and I knew I should have been a cop, but I said no, because my uncles were cops, my father was a cop, and I swore I was going to break that cycle and be a white collar guy. I wanted to wear suit and tie and go into corporate, right?
Yeah.
And don't ask me why. I mean, my uncles and father during that period, they were great cops, right?
Yeah.
They were like the real hero cops. They were real community guys and played softball with the kids in uniform, all that stuff. Long before you see now, you see the cops once in a while get out the car and play
it
basketball.
was different.
Break
it was
dance or
different,
something,
right?
but that's
Yeah. It's like
that's far
an
and few
anomaly,
between.
right?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I was probably 9 or 10 years old. We had just moved to West Haven, and my father was a detective, and we were on our way home up Route 34 from New Haven into West Haven, and there's a huge cemetery, St. Lawrence Cemetery on the left there. And a radio call comes across my father's radio, and he says, "We got to stop." He says, "And I don't want you to get out of the car." And what had happened was they found a dead body in the cemetery. Now that sounds like a joke, right? Everybody's dead in the
Right.
cemetery, right? But it's not. It was a woman who was killed, and her body was left on top of a grave. So we pull in past the yellow tape. My father gets out. And he says, "Now you stay right here. Don't get out of the car." But I'm 9, 10 years old. What do I do?
I want to see.
I get out the car.
I want to see.
Right? So I get right up there, and I remember that back then there was a woman who walked up and down Route 34, and she was a prostitute. And my father told me what she was doing. I was like, "Why is this woman always on this road walking?" He goes, "Well, she's a prostitute, right? And she was blonde, bleach blonde, attractive woman, but you can tell she was into drugs or whatever just by her look." So now that was previous to this day. So we get there, and I get out the car, and I'm looking, and I see everybody bent down, and they're looking at a pile of leaves. And it was fall. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't see no body. Like, what are they talking about? And so I remember it was sort of breezy. And finally, I kind of worked my way around to the foot of where she was laying, and they moved some of the leaves, and it was the woman. It was the blonde woman, prostitute.
Yeah.
And she had a stocking, her own stocking wrapped around her neck. But she was so still. And you hear this term, dead calm. That's where the term comes from, because I'll never forget the reality of dead hit me, because the grass was blowing a little bit from the wind. The leaves blew a little bit.
Yeah.
And she was completely dead calm still. Like nothing on her moved, nothing. And I remember thinking to myself, no one deserves to be killed.
Yeah.
No one deserves to have the life choked out of that.
Out of them. That's brutal.
You know what I mean? And so that made an impact on me. Like,
Wow.
I want to stop that sort of thing.
That's huge.
Yeah. And then there's so many stories, again, surrounding my father, watching my father as the greatest example of give back and community that I got it natural. But my mother was a beast as well. My mother, like, she was the life of the party. You know what I mean? She was that person that she would walk the streets and feed homeless people if she needed to. She would, and it was really, really amazing because she was always involved in everything. And she helped kids and she helped this one. She was a nurse for a while. And so she was the one that was very intentional about teaching me lessons. And you guys know your mom will tell you, hey, watch out for this girl, watch out for that right here, because this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then when that happens, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Whereas your dads or the men in our lives, they just kind of figured you'd figure it out by watching them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, and so, I had two of my heroes growing up, but when it comes to where I figured out my purpose in the work that I do with nonprofit, it happens every day, right? It's there. I can't remember an aha moment, but yes, I can. There was one moment where we were all sitting at a session and we were talking about sexual abuse. And so we have real intense conversations at hang time sessions. And we were talking about, actually it started out talking about Thanksgiving. And one of our regular participants said, well, the most memorable Thanksgiving in my life was when I was 17. We were sitting at the dinner table for Thanksgiving, all family, and they went around and said, what are you most thankful for? And she said, she stood up and she said, I'm most thankful for the strength today to tell everybody that Uncle Bobby has been having sex with me since I'm 10 years old. And everybody at the table was like, what? Oh. And she thought that they were upset because of what she said.
Right.
They were upset because of what she implied. And they were like, oh, honey, no, Uncle Bobby loves you. He would never do that, right? And she's like, are you kidding me? I'm telling you what happened to me all these years, and you're telling me to shut up.
Yeah.
Because, in the Black and Hispanic culture, what happens in mommy's house stays in mommy's house.
Yeah, it's an ugly aspect of
ugly
it.
thing, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it bleeds over into other cultures as well, but
Right.
I most know it from. And
Yeah.
so her grandmother took her in the kitchen and said, baby, listen, you don't say that in front of everybody. We know Uncle Bobby's got problems. Basically saying we know.
We know what he
That's
did,
insane.
but it's okay.
But
'cause
it's
we know.
it's okay. He's not bad. He loves you. And we'll take care of it. Don't you say that to nobody. And she was gobsmacked by it, right? Well, as she's telling that story, there's a brother sitting next to her. He's like 6'6", big, tough, badass looking dude. Tear comes down his face. He goes, yeah, it happened to me too. And then within seconds, over here, happened to me too. Over here, happened to me too. And that's when I realized I'm in a space that's safe for all of these people who are virtual strangers. They're not blood family, but they feel comfortable enough and they feel safe enough. And we've created a place where they can be who they want to be,
Yes.
say what they want to say without judgment,
Right.
and heal.
And be taken serious.
Right.
And heal, right? Because now they're all loving on each other. I know what it's like. Bro, that was it for me. I was like, okay,
That's that's incredible.
we're doing God's work. We're doing what needs to be done.
Yes.
And since then, everybody who comes, I got 3 guys that are millionaires that come to hang time. Nobody knows that they're millionaires.
Right.
They come to hang time and they purge and they talk about their personal issues and so forth. So yeah, that was the moment where I realized, we're making a huge difference. And I've got people from all walks of life coming in that room.
Yeah.
I got prosecutors that come in there on their own time.
Right.
I got cops, I got corrections officers, judges, I've got business owners from down the street, pastors. The other day, we had 4 different pastors at hang time. We had 71 people on a Tuesday night.
Wow.
71 people on a Tuesday night come together. We eat, we fellowship, we laugh, we cry. It's a family, bro. It's a family that you choose.
Right.
Sometimes you don't get to choose your family.
You don't get it, yeah.
But when you come to hang time, you get to choose your family.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable, man. Every time I like when I started this thing, I had no intention. You understand? I didn't think this was going to be a big, but bro, I mean, we're a brand.
A lot of
Absolutely.
people need healing.
Yeah, and we're a brand. I mean, and it does my heart well when I hear, like I go to Hartford, if I go to Danbury and I go, yeah, I run Hang Time. I go, oh, Hang Time, I heard of Hang Time. When you bringing it here? You know what I mean? And I'm like, I can't spread it that thin already. You know what I mean? I gotta have manpower. And like I have a staff of 22 people right now. And it's hard. It's hard to run 4 different cities with 22 people. Because what we do after the session is over, and people say, I need bus pass, I need this, I need help with security, I need this. That's when the work starts.
Yeah.
That's when the real work starts.
Yeah.
We're on the phone. Listen, I'll pick up my phone 2:00 in the morning. My wife, she want to slap the shit out of me, right? What are you picking up the phone for? I'm sleeping. What the fuck? I go, yeah. All right, where you at? All right, you ain't got no dust on you now, do you? All right, you already smoked it? All right, I'm coming to get you. Boom. Pick them up, bring them over to Griffin Hospital. These are real examples I'm talking about. Sit with them till 3 or 4 in the morning, detox, get back in my car, go home, sleep for a couple hours, and then go to my real job. Right?
That's the work.
Yeah, that's the work that we do. And that's not just me, that's everybody on my staff.
Wow.
I got an incredible staff.
So big a shout out to the staff too. Everybody that joined you on this journey.
All of them.
Bless them. Because
Yeah, and I mean, we really have made a difference in the community. Our recidivism rate, people who have been regulars, to be a regular at Hang Time, you have to attend at least 4 sessions, right? We don't even count you as being a regular unless you're there 4 sessions, and then we start to pour into you, right? Because we need a commitment from you too, right? So we can't be working harder for you than you're working for yourself. You come one time and say, I need this, I need that. No, it doesn't work that way.
yeah. No.
And so many people try it, you know. Well, I'm cousins with so-and-so. So
Okay.
you still got to be here for it.
You got to put the work
you
in.
gotta
I mean,
put
that's
time
part
in.
of it.
And it's incredible how it creates this bond and this trust. And so, you know, I'm real proud of what we got going on. I mean, one of our ladies, she went to CVS and she saw a young girl sleeping in the car behind CVS, right over there on, not Fairfield. What's the other one?
Park Ave? No, CVS.
Ave?
CVS.
No,
North Avenue?
No, right over by, trying to think of the street. Oh boy.
Well, what's the other CVS? I can't think of it either. Was all the way one in Barnum Ave.
It's near the Circle. Like you're on your way to Klein Theater. It's on the right there.
Is it Walgreens?
Park.
It's
Park
Walgreens.
Park Avenue.
Oh, Walgreens.
Yeah.
Walgreens.
The
I'm
new
sorry.
Walgreens.
Yeah. So she sees a girl sleeping in the car there. And so she taps on the window. She says, you need to come to Hang Time. You all right? She goes, yeah. What's Hang Time? She says, come on, I'll take you. And she took her around, showed her. The girl came to Hang Time. Turns out she was missing from New York. She had mental health issues, and her family was searching for her, didn't know where she was. And she left New York on her own, sleeping in the car, everything she owned in the car. And so my staff got her convinced you need to get back on your meds. So they took her over to Southwest and got her analyzed and the whole bit, got her meds, got her a job doing hair and nails, phenomenal transformation. And, you know, she's moved on now and got her own job. Now she's got her own apartment. But she was sleeping in a car.
Yeah.
And my person said, come to Hang Time. We're going to help you. Like, that's pretty amazing. You know what I mean?
Life changing.
And
The
it's-
difference
it's-
you make in a
right.
person's life is
It's community, right?
Yes.
Like, so when you walk into Hang Time, you'll see black, white, short, rich, poor, ugly, good looking, more good looking than ugly. but you see everything because that's what our community's made up of. You understand?
Yeah.
Like, it's not just one type of person and one need. And so it's a movement, bro. It's a
Yeah.
movement. It's coming in.
I feel like, you know, things change fast. You know, we have to kind of redefine community, reinvent community, and glue it together because it used to be the neighborhood.
That's right.
And now we don't really talk to our neighbors like that. It's just like your community is like my community, for example, is creatives.
Right.
So we're not neighbors.
Right.
So it's like you gotta kind of take a step back and redefine what community means and what your purpose or how you're gonna serve. So I mean, to you and everyone on your staff and your parents and everyone that's had that impact on you, man, we gotta say thank you.
Appreciate you.
And so before we go, is there anything you want to share? What does Charles Grady do when he's not working for the people?
Oh boy, I don't know.
What do you do for fun? You still play the drums?
No, I gave up the drums.
I saw my
stopped.
drum set. I was so
I
upset.
sold mine too when we moved. We downsized. So what I do for fun right now is I'm writing a book. I got a 2-book deal. So that's fun to me. That's something for me, about me, right? I'm being a little selfish with that. I like to chill on the beach. I like long walks in the park. No, just kidding.
Like, E-Harmony.
E-Harmony.
Call me. No, but no, I mean, you know, I'm a beach freak. Can't swim from me to you, but I'm in the water. I'm on the boat. The other day, this was awesome. Friends and I went over to Greenport, Long Island.
Yeah.
And on the way back, our boat got surrounded by a pod of dolphins.
Cool.
Really?
I'll show you the video.
Wow.
Unbelievable. It's like 30 or 40 dolphins
that
were just circling around us. They were playing, jumping out of the water. I was like, this is like
This
a
is in the
surreal
Long Island
moment.
Sound.
Yeah, right there.
Really? Wow.
It was unbelievable. And so again, that's my enjoyment, right?
Yeah.
Taking in nature, taking it, like I'm a hummingbird freak.
Yeah.
We
know what
had
I mean?
some out front.
The hummingbird?
A couple of days ago, yeah.
Oh, I love them, man. I got all these hummingbird feeders
I got
outside
some
of my
shots
crib.
to show you from Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only a few.
Yeah, but it's like, so me and nature kind of come one.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, it may sound weird, but if you really want to be grounded again, like that term is real, right?
Yeah.
Take off your shoes,
Yeah.
walk out into a park,
Yeah.
go to the biggest, baddest, nicest tree you want,
Yeah.
and connect, touch it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we lose sensitivity when we're not connected.
Yeah.
When you're barefoot and you're holding on to a tree, there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on with
Yeah.
you. You can't see it,
Yeah.
and it may sound crazy,
But it's happening.
but it's real.
We
It's
spend
real.
our life between rubber and concrete.
Exactly.
So you
That's-
never really touch it.
Exactly.
And even when you're
Natural
home
energy.
barefoot, you're
Right.
just in a structure.
And so for me, like I love it. I just love being out, being on the boat, whatever it is. I just like being outside. In the wintertime, I'm depressed because
I hate the
can't,
winter.
I
You
can't
can't go
take
out.
it. I can't go out and have fun.
And that 3 p.m. but the sun's already coming down.
Right,
Ah,
yeah,
It
no,
means
no.
you gotta hop on a flight and go somewhere. warm.
Luckily, I live about 8 minutes from Avello Airlines.
yeah.
So I'll
So
be right
they're
at,
doing
I'll
it
be-
up.
I'll be right at Old San Juan. Be over here in my jammy. I'm good.
Montego Bay now.
Yeah, but I tell
Yeah. Oh, they got that now?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
thing, I don't know if they started yet, but I know that's their next.
Yeah, I love it. So
Because if that's the case,
that's the way you get away. But yeah, you know, and listen, I'm always thinking. I'm always trying to write the next play, the next screenplay, I'm always doing, that's my enjoyment. So when I retire from law enforcement in November, I'm going to be doing some of these vanity projects.
these must do's.
Yeah, these must-dos, right? Stuff that I've had to put off because
Yeah.
it would be a conflict of interest with working for the feds.
Yeah.
And so now I get some freedom. It'll be the first time since I'm 15 that I've had freedom to do creative outreach and things that I want to do,
right.
you know, outlets. And I'm gonna run with it for a while. I'm gonna stop working altogether when I'm 67. But between now and then, I'm going hard. I'm coming out the gate hot.
Hey, there's no other way, man.
So I created all these nonprofits over 10 years while working full time.
Right.
So now I'm not gonna work full time. I'm gonna put full
Just
time into this.
concentrate on the
Yeah,
nonprofits.
I can already see it.
It's coming, baby.
I can already see
coming.
it.
You got to make sure that you drop the credentials for hang time and her time.
Yes,
and where
yes.
people can.
So if you go on to our website, it's hangtimerealtalk.com or hangtimerealtalk.org. And that will give you an overview of who we are and what we do. There's phone numbers there to reach out to us as well. Make sure you watch the videos on there because a lot of the videos are true testimonies from people that attend.
Yeah.
And then Connecticut Hall of Change. We didn't talk much about Connecticut Hall of Change, but we're the first in the country to do a program where we honor people that have come home from incarceration, been home for 5 years or more, and do great things to give back to the community.
Yeah, that's when I came in.
Yeah,
That's how I met you.
yeah.
Do, interviewing and hearing their testimony.
Yes, it's incredible. And right now, one of the individuals, Amir Williams and Gordon Lyde too, actually, I'm telling their story in a short documentary film. Jumbo Outlaws are going to be in it as well. And it's all about the transformation, going from being that bad guy, quote unquote, to being the good guy. And then I have an FBI agent who went to prison for he was the good guy, and then he's now the bad guy.
Yeah.
So it's really, really incredibly informative.
Yes.
Right? And it gives you a chance to see both sides of the coin and
Yeah.
understand that there is no such thing as bad guys and good guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's people that do wrong things and people that don't do wrong things.
right.
You know what I mean? So
It's all about choice.
yeah, it's all about choice. But and so that our website for that, we just had an incredible Hall of Change ceremony. Each year we induct people, and the crazy part is their likeness and their story
Yeah.
lives on video
Yes.
at a museum, a
Right.
Connecticut State Museum.
Okay.
So their kids, grandkids can go see them,
see them.
And be proud of the change that they've made. So we had an incredible ceremony this year up in Hartford, and inducted 8 new people, 8 people each year, because there's 8 counties in Connecticut. But last year was incredible, and we inducted, Amir Williams, and he turned his life around from being in prison, got full pardon, wrote his own full pardon, got 2 master's degrees, and now he's a sergeant in New Haven Police Department.
That's
So,
incredible.
Yeah, you want to talk about really
That's a turnaround.
That's a big
right?
turnaround.
Yeah.
That's a turnaround.
And he does great things. He writes pardons for people that are just like him. That's what he does. He's written over 600 pardons for people. And, he's a great asset. And Gordon Lyde's another one who was incarcerated as a young guy, came out, turned his life around. And his goal was to go work at DOC and be the counselor inside that he wishes he had while he was locked up. And he did that, and then he realized the system can't really be changed. And so this documentary's all
You
about
dig.
yeah.
You dig, you try, you
yeah.
dig, you try. But I mean, system,
Yeah.
like you said.
This documentary is all about culture. And listen, I've been a part of this law enforcement culture for 41 years, and I ain't happy with a lot of it. You know what I mean? I've made the changes. I've made some impact, but there's still a lot more work to do.
Yeah.
I see.
You know what I mean? So at any rate, that's what it is. And cthallofchange.org, cthallofchange, one word, .org. And that will bring you to the Hall of Change stuff.
Yeah, we'll make sure to link up. But good call. I almost forgot about that. But we usually try to link up everything. But man, I mean, you're always welcome back, because there's so much to talk about.
Hey, listen, I'll be here tomorrow morning.
Hey, let's do it.
You'll be sick of it. Like, Charlie's here again.
He's here again.
You can come at night. We'll have some of that over there.
Yeah. No, we gonna sit right. I love that right there.
Hey.
Right there.
No, I appreciate you all having me here, man.
Yeah.
And this was real good. You guys make it comfortable, and
Yeah, it's a conversation.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I've been trying to
Want everybody to relax and be natural.
yeah, that's exactly right.
Just
So I
basically
appreciate
shoot
you.
the shit.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what it is.
That's it.
Pretty much. But thank you for being here. Thank you for everything you've done. And we'll see you again.
Thank you for everything you do, and you too, both of you.
Appreciate it.
But I see your work in film editing.
Yeah.
And you're
Oh,
the
yeah.
dude.
Maria behind the camera over there is one of my lead actresses now.
Yeah.
Because of our film this year, they gave me a Visionary Award.
Which film?
Followed. It's a short film. Followed.
wrote
I haven't seen it.
She wrote it. It's not out yet. It was at the film fest, the Bridgeport Film Fest.
Oh, it was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't go.
So we got good reception, but I got awarded Visionary by the city
awesome.
of Bridgeport.
Now, how many
I wasn't
minutes-
expecting it.
How many minutes is it?
It's an 8-minute short.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last one from last year was about 24.
Yeah.
But the film fest
Yeah.
things between 8 and 10 minutes.
Okay. Good.
But shout out to Maria.
Shout out to Maria.
She got more stuff in there too. So
Really? Hey,
Yeah.
it's all full circle. All right.
All right.
Well, we'll see you again.
You will
Thank you
indeed.
so much.
Thank
thanks
you.
a lot.
All right.
Tiny Bar Chats.